What? You betrayed me. Don't mess with me. You're the one who kept scamming money from me and Dad. You brainwashed us, telling us it's better not to be around Lisa, lied that you were our mother, and because of that, Dad died without seeing Lisa for years. I'm not just gonna get back the money you scammed from me, but also the money you scammed from Dad. After sucking all the money out of us and having a good time, you better be prepared for hell.
My brother, furiously yelling, approached Maple, who was startled and fell on her buttocks.
Well, I guess we'll see each other in court next time. We left after leaving those words.
My name is Lisa Miller, a 30-year-old office worker. I have recently started dating a man named Nick, and he is seriously considering marrying me, so he told me he wanted to meet my parents as soon as possible. However, I feel sorry for him. That's because my parents divorced a long time ago, and both of them have already passed away. My parents' relationship deteriorated to an irreparable state due to simple misunderstandings, and they ended up divorcing. At that time, I was 16 years old, and after my parents divorced, I was taken in by my mother. Even after the divorce, my mother continued to care for me very much, and thanks to her allowing me to do anything I wanted, I was able to continue taking piano lessons that I had been taking since I was a child, and I was also able to go to cram school. In return, I did my best to do housework to the extent that it did not interfere with my studies. I tried to cook dinner as much as possible, and although it was mostly rice balls, I also prepared lunchboxes for my mother.
The rice balls you make are always delicious.
I remember being very happy when my mother complimented me like that. And so, I successfully went on to college, and because I worked hard in my studies, I was able to go to a fairly prestigious university.
You did a great job. It's amazing that you're going to a higher level university than your mom and dad.
I was very happy to see my mother so happy. By the way, I was told by my mother that it was okay to meet my father because the reason for the divorce was not related to the children, so I used to visit him regularly.
Oh, you came. It's been a while since I saw Ted, hasn't it? Lisa, have you been well?
Yes, how are you, Dad and brother? I'm fine, and Ted is overflowing with energy. After my mother and father divorced, my father lived with my brother Ted. My brother is 4 years older than me, and he was 22 years old when I decided to go to college. At that time, he was job hunting, and he seemed very happy when I visited him, perhaps because he was tired from job hunting. It was lonely not to be able to live with my brother, but it was nice to see him healthy and well when I visited him regularly.
Lisa, you got into college? And it's a pretty tough university, isn't it? That's amazing. You got into a higher university than me. That's amazing.
Thank you both. How about we go out for sushi to celebrate today?
Yay, I can eat sushi.
Even though our parents were divorced, I got along well with my father and brother, and every time I met them, I felt happy. However, after I started attending college, my father remarried another woman. Since then, it became difficult to see my brother. The new mom wants us to get used to our new life as much as possible, so she doesn't want us to meet our former family too much. I see. I was told that by my father on the phone, and I felt conflicted. Of course, I don't mind my father remarrying and finding happiness again. On the contrary, I think it's a happy thing, but I didn't want to not see my brother because of that. Is it not possible to reduce the frequency of our meetings? I'm sorry, but Ted seems to be busy with job hunting, and I don't want to cause any confusion. I see. But once we get used to our new life, I'm sure the new mom will let us meet. Okay, I understand. I wasn't very convinced, but I didn't want to protest and cause trouble for my father and brother in their relationship with their new mother, so I decided to endure it. After that, I finished my college life and got a job. During that time, I couldn't meet my brother or father. It's been 4 years, they could have at least let me see them once. No, maybe they are already living fulfilling days without the need to see me. My brother, who was job hunting at the time, has already been employed for several years. I want to see how hard my big brother is working. With that in mind, I took the initiative to call my father. Then, I heard an unfamiliar woman's voice on the other end of the phone. Hello, who is this? I thought this was my father's number. Could you be Lisa? Yes. I am Maple, the woman who remarried your father. Your father is currently working and can't leave, so I answered instead. Oh, I see. By the way, what made you call? It's been 4 years since I last saw my father and brother, and I thought it was about time I wanted to see them. When I said that, the woman named Maple made a surprising comment. Oh, you haven't seen them for that long? I thought you were meeting regularly. No, not at all. Well then, maybe they don't want to see you. Actually, even when I mention your name now, my husband doesn't show any reaction at all. Really? What about my brother? Isn't he nearby? I was hoping that at least my brother would react to my call. However, Maple said, Ted is right next to me, but he is just touching his computer without any reaction. It seems that both of them have already forgotten about you and are accustomed to their current lives. They are both living happily, so can you leave them alone? Well, I'm going to hang up now. Maple said that and hung up. I was so shocked that I couldn't move for a while even after the call ended. I didn't want to believe that my brother and father had forgotten about me and were living their lives. When I consulted my mother, she said, "That's strange. Those two love you, Lisa," and tried to call my father, but he told my mother, "Please don't call anymore." So in the end, we couldn't meet or talk with my father and brother. Since then, I haven't been able to see my father and brother. My work has become busier, and the days have passed with them still in the back of my mind. In the midst of that, about 3 years after that call, I received sad news. My dad. It was a message that my father had died in a traffic accident. I rushed to the hospital where my father was taken. In the room where I was guided by the hospital staff, there was already my father covered with a white cloth. When I removed the cloth, my father's face looked as if he was just sleeping, with a gentle expression and his eyes closed. Dad. I hadn't seen my father for 7 years. I never thought I would reunite with him like this. Lisa. Big brother. As I was mourning my father's death, my brother entered the room. My brother, whom I met for the first time in 7 years, had a very mature atmosphere.
Why didn't you come to see us even once? Did you start hating me and Dad? He asked. Wait a minute, it was Maple, your new mother, who said you guys didn't want to see me.
No way. Maple would never say that. She is an amazing person. I admire her. That's why there is no way she would say not to meet Lisa. No way. My brother seemed to trust Maple very much. It seemed that they had built a very strong bond during these 7 years. Then, a person who seemed to be Maple came in.
Oh, it's our first time meeting in person.
Hello. Maple was a woman in her early 50s, with a very domestic and competent vibe. I come across various adults in my work, and somehow, she gave me the impression of being a bit cunning. My husband suddenly passed away, and it was really shocking. We are going to hold the funeral soon, and I would really like you and your mother to attend, Maple said. There were various things to consider, but the most important was my father's funeral. My mother and I attended my father's funeral together and bid him farewell. The funeral went without any issues, but there was a bit of a dispute over the inheritance. You haven't seen your father for 7 years, so could you possibly renounce your inheritance?
No, wait a minute. It was you who didn't let me see my father.
As I said that, my brother, Ted, interjected. Are you still saying that? There's no way Mom would do that. How many times do I have to explain it to you?
Believe me. Maple told me not to see you or Dad anymore. She said they were happy now and asked me to leave them alone.
Despite my desperate pleas, Ted did not believe me. Oh dear, somehow I seem to be the villain here. Mom is not at fault. Lisa is just saying strange things. Look, I'm not really interested in the inheritance, but could you renounce it? What? I'm entitled to a portion of it, right? If Dad saw you being so greedy about money, I wonder what he would think. Maple treated me as if I were a money grubber. Then, my mother stepped in. Please wait. My daughter is just claiming her rightful share. Please stop making unfounded accusations. Thanks to my mother, Maple stopped talking. Regardless of what is said, I will ensure that my daughter receives at least her rightful share. Ted said angrily.
What? Are you and Lisa colluding to make things difficult for us?
My mother calmly denied it. That's not the case. This is just a claim for what is rightfully ours. The discussion was difficult, but in the end, I was able to receive my rightful share. However, as a result, a rift formed between my brother and me. It was because I ended up opposing Maple, whom Ted trusts. I was able to see my brother after a long time, but I ended up being disliked by him. Losing my father was sad enough, but having issues with my brother made it even more mentally draining. And then, more misfortune befell me. My mother was diagnosed with cancer. She was given only 1 year to live. I felt like I was being crushed by the weight of my misfortunes. Why does this always happen to me? I became quite negative, but my mother, noticing my change, spoke to me kindly.
Everyone will die someday. It's not something we can control. I have been happy living with you, Lisa, and I plan to enjoy the time I have left to the fullest.
Mom. After that, my mother and I went on trips and did as many things as she wanted to before she passed away. Having lost both of my beloved parents, I was drowning in sorrow, but my mother's final words encouraged me to enjoy life to the fullest, so I decided to wipe away my tears and move forward. Ted came to my mother's funeral, but he brought Maple with him. As a result, he was aggressive towards me and kept bringing up the inheritance.
Since you forcibly took part of Dad's inheritance, I will definitely take part of Mom's.
I didn't want to fight anymore, so I quietly agreed. Yes, of course. I intended to give it to you from the start. I completed the necessary procedures for the inheritance and ensured Ted received his share. I haven't seen Ted since then. There has been no communication, and I feel awkward reaching out. Several years passed, and I met Nick through a friend's introduction. He was considering marriage seriously, and I mustered the courage to tell him everything about my past. That my parents were deceased, and that I was almost estranged from my only sibling, my brother. Nick, after listening to everything, still said he wanted to marry me. I fell in love with him all over again for that. We continued to date smoothly, and I eventually received a formal marriage proposal. It must be moments like these when one feels on top of the world. However, just then, I received a sudden phone call from my brother.
Hello, Ted? It's been a while, hasn't it? What's up? Oh, speaking of which, I have something to report to you too.
I was so happy to hear from my brother after such a long time that I inadvertently started talking quickly. But then, my brother interrupted me, saying something incomprehensible.
Why didn't you come to Dad's funeral? I never thought you could be so cruel.
I was taken aback by my brother's sudden accusation over the phone. What's wrong? Why are you saying something so nonsensical out of the blue?
What do you mean, nonsensical? Dad is dead.
Calm down, Ted.
How can I be calm?
Was this some kind of sick joke?
No, it was too cruel for that.
But there was no sign of lying in my brother's sobbing voice. I took a deep breath to calm myself and then spoke slowly to my brother. Ted, Dad passed away 5 years ago. To which my brother responded with astonishment.
What are you talking about? Dad didn't die back then.
What are you talking about, Ted? We saw Dad's body together, and we even had a funeral. I couldn't understand why my brother was saying such things. No, Dad was alive. I actually lived with Dad for about 3 years after that. What do you mean? That's why I was living with Dad. I really couldn't understand what my brother was saying. Dad was alive? It seemed better to go along with his story for now. Yes, but they said he would die soon from an illness if I didn't give alms, so I gave all my earnings as alms. At this point, I realized that my brother had been deceived by someone. But still, the alms weren't enough, and then Dad died. I'd like to meet the person you were giving alms to.
Of course. Lisa, you should get saved too. That person found out where Dad was and helped him out.
A few days later, I went with my brother to visit the person he said he was indebted to. The place was located inside a regular office building, ostensibly a counseling center. They said that if you consult with the teacher, they can solve any problem, and I was led by my brother into a private room in the office. There was Maple.
Why are you here?
Well, if it isn't Lisa. Wait a minute, you remarried with Dad and became Ted's new mother, right? Why does Ted call you teacher? Ted and I have a patient-teacher relationship. No, you lived with Ted, right? Ted even called you Mom. What are you talking about? Maple is a counselor, not a mother. Mom died 3 years ago. Hold on. Maple, are you brainwashing Ted? What are you talking about? I'm just listening to his story. Before that, I was counseling his father. So, you were deceiving Dad.
Hey, don't say such terrible things.
It seems that you, Lisa, are quite confused. It's understandable. Losing both your mother and father can lead to mental illness.
What are you talking about?
You may be unconsciously blocking out reality in your mind. You are suppressing the sorrow of losing your parents deep in your heart. I can help release that.
Stop it, I'm already living looking forward.
Are you really? Aren't you just enduring it? I'm not enduring anything. It's better not to force yourself. If you do as I say, your heart will feel lighter than it does now. What the teacher is saying is true. Ted also became healthier that way. So why don't you leave it to me? Well then, please go ahead. Good, you're a good child. Now, sit here and think about your mom and dad in your head. When I place my hand on your head, the sad feelings will mysteriously disappear. How about now? Do you feel lighter? No, I don't feel lighter at all. Oh, maybe it's because there is no offering, so there isn't enough power. If you really want to lighten your heart, you have to make a lot of offerings, otherwise, you can't evoke the power. Is that so? Well, should I start by offering $1,000? $1,000? That's not nearly enough. To be completely healed, you need to offer much, much more.
Is that so? Then, my brother also made a lot of offerings, right?
Yes, he almost offered all the money he earned from work. That's why he was able to find his father and regain happy days. But, the offerings stopped halfway, and his father really disappeared this time. So, he really regrets that and is increasing his offerings to be saved. I see. I called out towards the entrance. It seems so, Nick. As I said that, the door of the room opened, and my fiancé, Nick, entered. Who are you? Maple looked at Nick with a suspicious face and asked, so Nick handed her his business card. I am Nick, a detective. I have heard everything and also recorded it. It seems you have brainwashed Ted and extorted a large amount of money from him. Not only that, but you also tried to brainwash Lisa.
A detective? He is also my fiancé. And we are planning to sue you and recover the money.
When I said that, Maple chuckled with a momentary flinch. What are you saying? Ted was saved by me. There is no fact that I deceived him. I just provided proper counseling, right? Maple asked my brother with a triumphant face. I saw my brother glance at us before saying, I was deceived by you and forced to give you a lot of money.
What did you say?
Maple's eyes widened at my brother's statement. It seems that Ted is planning to sue you.
Wait a minute, this must be some kind of mistake. Ted, I saved you, right? And yet, you betray me like this?
Teacher, I admit that thanks to you, both my father and I felt somewhat lighter. But it is also a fact that you gradually brainwashed us. In reality, I lost the ability to make proper judgments because of you. You brought a man with a similar face to my father, making me believe that my father was actually alive. And then you implanted fear that my father would die if I didn't work hard on the offerings. Moreover, you disposed of all the photos of my father and me without my knowledge, and replaced them with composite photos of a fake father. Because the photos were so sophisticated and natural, I naturally believed that the fake father was my real father. And before I knew it, most of my salary, which I earned from working, was taken away by you. It wasn't until I reunited with Lisa and she showed me the real photos of my father that I realized I had been brainwashed. That's why I decided to sue you after securing evidence of you actually demanding an exorbitant amount of money.
How could you? You betrayed me. Don't mess with me. You kept extorting money from me and Dad. You brainwashed Dad and me, convinced us that it would be better not to see Lisa, and even lied to us that you were our mother. Because of that, Dad died without seeing Lisa for many years. I'm not only going to get back the money you extorted from me, but also the money you took from Dad. You've had a good time sucking money out of us, now get ready to see hell.
My brother angrily confronted Maple, causing her to fall on her but in fear. Well, I guess we'll see you in court then. Leaving those words behind, we left the place. Later, my brother asked a lawyer friend for help, and based on the evidence Nick secured, we sued Maple. As a result, she was ordered to pay my brother $500,000, the total amount she had extorted from my father and him. Not only was Maple ordered to pay compensation, but her outrageous fraud was also revealed to her past patients and their families, resulting in a large number of lawsuits and a tremendous amount of compensation. However, I think she deserves to receive this retribution because she has been doing as she pleased until now. It turned out that the reason my brother and I had a strained relationship was that we were brainwashed, and everything was resolved, and the gap between my brother and me disappeared. And my brother also attended the wedding of Nick and me. We hadn't seen each other for many years because of Maple, but to fill the gap of those years, we planned to meet regularly and get along well as siblings from now on.